Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. And you have to know me. Actually, before I do anything, this is really important. This is a subscribe now button. I've never done this before, but my advisors have told me, Calvin, do it. A subscribe now button to please stop what you're doing, subscribe to this channel, and that's how we're growing. And that's how I'm able to bring people like Alan Roth, screenwriter, and that's why he's here. We're gonna talk about some great stuff. And actually, this is a dream interview for me because my whole life revolves around movies, and everything I've done in my life, every achievement I've made is movie based. So the fact that Alan Roth, screenwriter, and Nicholl, I'm not saying it right, a Nicholl Fellowship Award winner. We can talk about that. So please subscribe. It really makes a difference. Just click on it. Boom, done. So, as I hinted, I'm really excited about this, like I said, because I'm such a movie person. So we have Alan Roth, screenwriter, uh, adjunct professor at Fairleigh Dickinson, and writing and screenwriting, and your journey, unbelievable. Your experiences, unbelievable. And I think there's nothing on earth like a movie to teach and inspire and motivate. And you're right smack in the middle of all that. So I'm tittering, and I'm shaking with glee because this is heaven for me to do this kind of stuff, and you're so gracious to give the time to be here and to talk about your journey. So officially, this Johnny Carson monologue has now concluded with very little comedy. So Alan, why don't you do some background, a little background, whatever you want to say, and then we'll jump into stuff.
Well, thank you, Calvin. It really is a pleasure to be with you. Um, well, my background is, uh, I am a screenwriter. Um, and from my earliest age, I always wanted to be a writer. Um, and so while in my 20s, I sought out professional opportunities that would allow me to write, and ultimately, uh, I became a partner in a media production company, producing high-end marketing and communication videos for Fortune 500 companies. And my goal was to tell stories uh, within the corporate community that would help marketing and communications departments meet their objectives. But the question came up of, well, we need business. And I ended up in the sales end of the organization. I was the sales partner. And we ended up hiring writers. So I was a little frustrated that I had created or been part of creating a company that gave an opportunity to writers, but I myself was not one of them. But the company was very successful. And I continued with it. Um, and time went by, and I had a personal experience. Unfortunately, I lost a friend who I was very close with, and it was a very it was a very moving experience. And I felt, as many writers do, I felt compelled, in order to deal with my feelings and as a catharsis, to write about his story, which was a unique story. Um, and it came to me as a movie. I'd
Wow,
never written a screenplay before.
wow.
I had no idea how to write a screenplay, but in order to deal with my feelings, I wrote a movie script. And when I was finished, I still did not have a feeling of closure. So I read a couple of screenplay books. I put it in the right format. I wanted it to look like a professional screenplay. And then what? Well, my final closure, or I thought my final closure, was I sent it out to a couple of producers out in Los Angeles and to a very prestigious screenwriting competition as you know, called the Nicholl Fellowship, which is run by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. And once I had sent the script to a couple of producers and I had applied to the Nicholl Fellowship Screenwriting competition and entered the script, now I did have some closure. I had written about my friend. The screenplay was a tribute to him. I sent it out and I was done with it. What I didn't expect was that it won the Nicholl Fellowship. And I was invited out to Los Angeles by the Academy, and I was suddenly thrust into the middle of a very prominent Hollywood community. It was a shocking experience, one that I didn't know what I was going to do with, but it ultimately led to me transitioning to becoming a full-time screenwriter. And that in the Cliff Notes version is my background.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny. It just dawned on me, you have the Nicholl Fellowship and that thrust you in a semi goof I wrote, There's a Tortoise in My Hair as a goof, sort of, not a goof, but I wound up getting a Kirkus Star for that, and then a couple other awards, the New York Book Festival, I was runner up, and the Hollywood Book Festival, I was honorable mention. As a
Yeah. And
and
that
so
was not your original intention when you set out to write
Not
the
at
book.
all. I just wanted to tell a story of, me in spirit. And so there's a parallel. It just dawned on me, and now that we've met a few times. But
Yeah.
it's your story is such a great story,
Thank
and
you.
how you
Yeah.
arrived there.
Yeah.
Um, so you just kind of my first question was, your inspiration. You just kind of talked about your inspiration to become a screenwriter, paying homage to, to your friend and so forth. Um, do you have like a breakthrough moment from like writing scripts to writing professionally? Is there something that happened? It's a piece of
Yeah.
evidence.
Yes. So uh, that moment really was and had to do with winning the Nicholl Fellowship. Um, and it reminds me in some ways of that scene in The Wizard of Oz. And you are such a movie guy, so I'm talking with some movie references. When Dorothy closes her eyes and clicks her heels 3 times, there's no place like home, and learns she always had the power to go home. Well, in some similar way, before I won the Nicholl Fellowship, there was within me the capacity to become a professional writer, but I didn't believe in myself. And there was no one to tell me that I had that potential. Um, and then I won the Nicholl Fellowship, and I was the same writer the day before than I was the day after. But now I learned I had the power to decide that I was going to be a professional screenwriter. It was always there. I always had the capacity. And then maybe staying with the Wizard of Oz, the Cowardly Lion is given a
Courage,
ticking clock for right. Given for
courage.
so, or the Cowardly Lion, right? It's given a certificate or the
A badge. He's given a badge
badge,
of
the
courage.
badge. Right. So what's the badge? What is the Nicholl Fellowship? But what it does is make it made him believe in himself. And now I suddenly believed, and I was able to, when I was approached by industry professionals, I felt validated. I felt like I did have the credibility. So that was for me the moment, winning the Nicholl Fellowship. Having some media attention put on me. I don't want to overstate this, but I was sought out by producers, and then there was a further grant that was given to one of the 5 Nicholl Fellowship winners that year to actually produce a short proof of concept film for their film, and I received that grant as well, and I was that was for Jersey City Story, by the way,
Mm.
and we produced the 30-minute proof of concept film.
I so relate to what you're saying because in my little, again, the validation of something like that, it just propels you and energizes you beyond. And
It does. For producers to ask me to come up to their offices and pitch ideas. Well, I had these ideas 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but now they were of interest because I had my badge. I had my,
yes,
yeah,
yes, it
yeah,
that badge, it's magic for me in my world, magic.
magic.
You can't take something off the shelf and swallow it, and give you that power and that. So I so understand, what you're saying. I relate to that because, I live it. Um, I like this question because I am who I am. Popeye said that. I
Yeah,
am who I am. Talk
right.
about movies. I am who I
Yeah,
am. So what movies and TV shows are part of your inspiration?
sure. Um, well, a couple of movies that come to mind are Field of Dreams, The Natural. So those are both sports films, I suppose, but I'm not necessarily a sports guy. Um, uh, Goodfellas, Local Hero. Do you know Local Hero? I'm sure you would
Uh,
enjoy. I think you in particular would because you're so spiritual, and look for deeper meanings in life. Local Hero. Burt Lancaster's in that actually.
okay.
Was another. But with respect to the other, The Godfather, and I think about these films, The Godfather, The Natural, Field of Dreams, all have focused on father-son relationships. And my father was a real role model for me, and we were extremely, extremely close. And I gravitate toward films where there are intense father-son relationships. Um, with TV shows, there's just a wide variety from The Sopranos to Breaking Bad. Uh, 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 and I think what the common denominator is in each of these, I believe, are that the stories depend on character development. They're this in so many TV shows, TV series, and feature films fail because they focus only on story and they don't the audience is not invested in what happens to the characters. And in each of these that I mentioned, I feel incredible character development, really strong.
By the way, I don't know if you noticed, I'm taking notes.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I don't know how many. I know Johnny Carson never took any notes.
Yeah,
Jimmy Fallon
he
never
had
did
cue
either.
cards.
Yeah, but I'm taking notes. I write,
Okay.
key words down. Um, so do you have, I always like to ask this because I'm a writer of sorts. Do you have a particular writing routine?
Yeah, I do. I do. Um, well, first, I would say I'm very disciplined with my writing, meaning I don't have to be in the mood. It's a blessing if I'm in the mood, but when I schedule myself to write, that's a sacred time, and I sit down and I write. Um, and generally speaking, it's the first thing I do in the morning when my head is clearest. I haven't been distracted by emails, phone calls, text messages in the outside world. I'm refreshed, I'm thinking clearly, and my very best writing is generally done between 8 a.m. and noontime. I then come back to it toward the end of the day, finish up whatever loose ends I need to with my writing, and then it's the business of writing that I do in between. Um, I almost always uh, try not to write over the weekend, and the unless I'm on a deadline and have no choice but to do that. And the reason for that is to keep my mind and perspective fresh, because I'm sure you have found this too. There's like the law of diminishing returns. I mean, I could sit down for 8 hours and write, but by the time I get to that fifth and sixth hour, I'm struggling and it's just not productive. And even, don't you find it's even physically draining? So I calibrate myself very carefully. I write in the mornings, I write late in the day, and I try to refresh over the weekends.
Interesting. I love hearing, the different perspectives. I've now done three books, and I'm a little different. I like the what I call the solitude of late night. Um, you know, my wife
Mm.
is, and so I can, 10 to 2, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'll sleep a little bit later, but that's communal for me, and that's when I'm able to. Everybody's different that way.
Yeah. It's very individualized. Some writers are very devoted to meeting a certain word count each day. And that's what works for them.
Yeah,
It's what works for them.
yeah,
And they do the arithmetic of it. Okay, 1,500 words a day. This is how many words I'm going to get over a month. And I'm working on an 80,000 word novel, and this is how long it's going. I get that. I understand that. That's what works for them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just thinking, different. A novel is, depends. It's for me. Both my novels were 5-year enterprises. In the second novel, it was 5 years when I wasn't doing anything else. I mean, I was retired, so it still was 5 years. Uh,
Yeah. Uh, I,
one of the loneliest, one of the loneliest, hardest, toughest, ungratifying, because 5 years you don't see no return on your investment for a long time.
right. Except to say, hopefully, the sense of completion, and that if you had not completed it, it would have been gnawing at you for the rest of your life.
Oh, sure. It's a
Right?
sense of completion. And the one thing I get a tremendous kick. I write 5 or 6 pages, take it up, go on the exercise bike, and read and reread and reread and edit and reread. And it's my words. And that's a piece of energy that I
Ah,
get out of it. It's my words. It helps me on that boring undertaking called the exercise bike. But it's a lonely thing what we do.
it is. It's lonely. We have only ourselves and our imagination to keep us company. It's not at that point collaborative in any way. It is not for everybody.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
for everybody.
Not for everybody. Gotta,
Screenwriters very often work in teams. Maybe one screenwriter is the idea person and the other screenwriter actually keystrokes the screenplay.
okay.
In TV, a writer's room is formed, and that's very, very collaborative. But an author works alone, and a screenwriter writing an original screenplay or adapting a book is very often working alone before it goes out to a producer.
Yeah.
Very lonely. Yeah.
Very lonely.
Yeah.
It's lonely.
Yes, it
Uh,
is.
um, and and we don't get too bad we don't get paid by the hour. That would be great.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, oh. Anyway,
Yeah.
Um, does anything I like, does any are there any particular particulates of things floating in the atmosphere that draws you to a story?
Yes. Um, I love the story of the underdog. Uh, I love the story of someone whose back is up against the wall and exceeding what they ever thought they could accomplish, but only did because they had no choice but to act. Um, Again, stories for me now, and this is me, stories that have a very strong father-son dynamic or mentor-student dynamic uh, are really ones that draw me in. And I mean, The Godfather has a very strong father-son dramatic. The whole payoff to Field of Dreams, the final scenes, father, son. Um, the Natural, where he's given, he was taught how to play baseball as a child by his father, who died while Robert Redford's character was young. That's the whole spine of the whole story. Very, very drawn by that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's funny you mentioned those movies. I love The Natural. I just love that. And there's a spiritual thing to that, as Field of Dreams. These are, spiritual elements. And of course, I'm always drawn to that. And of course, The Godfather, my viewing is over 100 times. Um, Obsessed. And what am I
Yeah.
obsessed with? The beauty of the filmmaking, the story, the mood, and how it just draws you in. And I've written a number of essays on The Godfather. Uh, I'm I'm just drawn, and I had the great gift of meeting an actor from the Godfather.
Oh,
Um, I was at the Garden State Film Festival in Atlantic City when they were having it,
right.
and kind of hung out with some guys, and I'm walking on a boardwalk. We're going to an after party, and I'm with some guy, and he's dramatically younger than me. He's a young guy, and one thing, he's Italian, so I'm kind of drawn. And I'm telling I've worked for the richest Italian in the world for 25 years, and and then I kind of segue into my love of The Godfather on 85 different fronts because it's just marvelous. And he has the temerity to tell me he was in a movie. I said, "Yeah, right. Yeah, right. How could you tell me you're in the movie? You're a young guy." He said, "No, I was in a movie." I said, "All right, what part?" He says, "Remember the part when Tom Hagen has to run up to try to find Sonny at the wedding scene
Yep.
up there with the
Running
girl?"
upstairs when he's with the girl. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tom Hagen knocks on the door. "Sonny, your father wants you." Boom, boom. Tom Hagen walks down, and there's a couple little kids running in the hallway. He was one of the kids.
Really?
Lou Martini Jr.
Okay.
Lou Martini Jr.
Wow.
And you could have.
That's
It,
great.
it was absolutely, it made my
Yeah.
month to have
That's
met him.
great. Yeah.
Great story.
Remember that scene very
Yeah,
well.
just you
Yeah.
know, who knew? In the middle of the
Right.
boardwalk. Come on, it was great. It was a
Wow.
great story.
Wow.
Um, I like this question too. When you're doing a project, do you outline, and how do you organize yourself
Yeah.
to begin the project?
Yeah. I do. I do a couple of things. Um, but the main thing I do before I begin a screenplay is I create what is called, and what producers would refer to as a beat sheet, BEAT, a beat sheet. And a beat sheet is a series of bullet points, each of which is a major plot point that moves the story forward. And so if a screenwriter is creating a beat sheet for themselves, it might not be more than 10 or 12 beats, bullet pointed beats of what happens next in this story. Now, I have some colleagues whose beat sheet is almost as long as the eventual screenplay. They leave nothing to chance. But the purpose of the beat sheet is so that one does not get lost at sea while writing the screenplay. You can have momentum, but if you don't know what comes next in the script, that can stop you cold. And then when you finally figure it out, if you're doing this on the fly, it can have ripple effects for what came before. Now you're rewriting already and you're on page 12. So I write a beat sheet, which is not to say that the screenplay is not still a voyage of discovery as I go along and I allow myself for inspiration and opportunities. But there is a peace of mind I have that when I'm sitting down to write, I know basically what the chronology of the story is going to be.
Okay. It's funny.
Yeah,
I only work from an outline,
you do. You write a full outline.
full outline,
Very
completely,
detailed.
very detailed, full outline, and that takes months to write an outline for me.
Yeah,
And
sure.
that's what I go by. And of course, I change, but I have to work from a menu.
Well, yes. In fact, sometimes a producer, to make sure they're on the same page with a screenwriter, will say, before you start giving me pages, give me a beat sheet. Let's make sure we know we're both of like minds here. But as I say, some screenwriters will go further than a beat sheet and actually do what you do, create a very, 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 and I'll add one more very
Uh,
detailed outline, almost to the point where the only thing that they have not included is the dialogue, and then they begin the screenplay. But I use a beat sheet, a fairly abbreviated one.
okay. I like that term. I
Yeah,
wrote that down too, the beat sheet. Maybe in
yeah.
future writing, because yeah, I have 5 books I want to write this year,
Oh,
2020. Yeah, I'm going to do a series with Kay Wagner, and it's going to be a takeoff on. Well, I might as well promote this. 10 Things I Learned from the Billionaire, which is coming out in December. It's because I worked for the world's richest Italian for 25 years. I learned a lot of stuff, and we're going to do a whole series. 10 things I learned about adoption, and 10 things I did this. And hey, I'm an octogenarian. I can do anything.
well, yeah. Well, the 10 things that you learned from a billionaire, you had very personal experience with, and you are the one to tell that story.
Yeah,
And to
correct,
me, yeah,
correct,
the fact that it's coming from you is what will help make it resonate with readers.
correct. And the best is, not too many people know this, but Mark Zuckerberg, that Facebook guy,
Yeah.
third wealthiest guy in the world, flew to Italy 5 years ago to meet with my boss and to talk about a project. And I know about that too. So it's all
Mhm.
nice stuff. It's all positive, nice stuff. There's nothing top secret here. It is what it is. It's out in the open, but I've had that gift. Um,
You saw it up close.
yeah. So this is a burning question. How does an author bring their book to the attention of producers? There's a billion
Yes.
books on that.
Yes. Well, there are a few ways. Uh, to use a dirty word, which perhaps we can do here, they can query.
Ugh,
Nobody likes the word query.
ugh,
I know. I
ugh.
They can query a producer, um, and with a very short email, short, brief, and concise, introducing themselves, and in one or two sentences, explaining why they think their book would be an excellent candidate for that particular producer to consider. provide what is called a log line, Logline, one word. And for your audience, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of examples of log lines. If you do a simple Google search for any feature film or TV series you can think of, and a log line is a one or two and never more than three sentence, very concise summary of your story, including the hero, the obstacle the hero needs to, the obstacle that the hero needs to um, uh, um, conquer or get past, the antagonist, which is a person or a situation, uh, and then the end of a log line can be a teaser or even the payoff to the story, and it must be crafted in a very tight way. The log line, by the way, and we're talking about how how an author can get their work to the attention of a producer, but just parenthetically, a log line is if you're at a social occasion and have an unexpected opportunity to meet with the producer who says, "Well, what are you working on?" You don't give them the 5 minute elevator pitch. They don't want that. They want the log line. Log line is the currency of Hollywood. So in the query, as we were saying, it's dear whomever, my name is, I am the author of, I believe my book would make an excellent feature film, limited TV series for your company because, or give some reason, uh, some rationale for why it really ought to be interesting to them. And then one or two sentences, brief about themselves, um, and really brief. I mean, if you won the Nobel Peace Prize, that's one sentence. It's not a long paragraph. And then ask for permission, which is the operative word, to send along a PDF of your manuscript. And now, while it is true, and it is very true, that most producers will not respond, and a couple might respond, "Thank you. We are not accepting unsolicited manuscripts at this time." Every once in a while, there is a producer whose interest you really will pique. And that producer may ask for their manuscript. They'll send a submission release form first, which is just a boilerplate release form that you don't need. I shouldn't say this, but you don't need an attorney to take a look at. It'll be a boilerplate form, um, which you sign. And if you send them, if they request the book's going to get read by somebody on the staff. Somebody will read the book and will create what is called coverage, which is an analysis of the story for the producer. And then if the producer wants to take a next step, they will contact the author and hopefully request a meeting. Now, one might make the observation, I'd have to send out 50 of those to get one response. That's okay, because it only takes one producer to make things happen. Alternately, one can query agents and managers. But it's best to do that not if you have one book, but rather you have a body of work. You may have one book that you have in mind for the screen, but if you have a body of work and other work that might be suitable, then a potential representative could be interested. Now, in my business, there are agents and there are managers, and they're two totally different, they do different things. An agent is almost singularly concerned with selling a project, not coddling the writer, not managing the career, not discussing what is the author's next work. That's what a manager does. It's tougher for an author to get an agent than it is to get a manager. A manager can also sell work, but a manager also helps develop work and get it ready to share with producers. Uh, so, querying producers directly, querying managers and agents, and also, some authors make the decision to adapt their own work, write their own screenplay. It's not for everyone, but competent writers can acquire the skill set to write a screenplay. And I'm not putting down what professional screenwriters do, but this is a way to explore. There are marvelous resources online, sample screenplays. And if an author decides to really devote their time to learning how to write a screenplay, they can adapt their own work. And if they do adapt their own work, now when they query a producer and they request permission to send along a manuscript of their book, that what they can add to that is, I have also adapted my book into a feature film or a pilot for a limited TV series. And if the author reads the email and they actually like what they see, they still have to ask themselves the question, do we want to ask for the book? That's an investment of time. We have to assign somebody to read the book. I mean, it's a whole thing. But if there's a screenplay available and they like what they see in the email, they won't ask for the book. They'll ask for the screenplay. Screenplay they could read in half an hour. And by the way, they know by page 10, by page 5, if this is something that might be of interest. And then if they read the screenplay and they like what they see, now they'll ask for the book, but they'll do it in a very purposeful way. And that's the good thing. The other part to it, Calvin, is that if you have your own screenplay, an author can do what I did. I sent my screenplay into the Nicholl Fellowship. Well, a screenwriting competition that made the entire difference for me. Well, there are hundreds of screenplay competitions now. Back
Right.
then, there weren't. But there are maybe 8 or 10 that the industry actually follows that are consequential. And if you have a screenplay and you enter it, very often producers are participating as judges in the quarterfinal rounds, the semifinal rounds, the final rounds, and they're not doing it for the small little honorariums they get, but they themselves are looking for good screenplays in certain competitions that otherwise never would have come to their attention, probably because of all the gatekeepers they put in front of themselves and the rest of the world.
Yeah.
That's another way to get discovered. And there are some wonderful screenplay competitions. The Austin Film Festival has one. So that's a very long-winded answer.
Yeah.
But I think it could be of interest to some of your audience.
Huge
Yeah.
interest because people invariably almost it just comes up all the time in my world, screenplay and of course all the stuff I do with the Garden State Film Festival. So it does come up. So now with a full page of notes that I'm now almost eminently qualified to participate in discussions.
Oh,
Thank you.
oh no, you're very welcome. If an author might think, yes, I can write my own screenplay, but is it really going to come up to the standard of a professional producer? But they can then hire a script doctor, not to write their screenplay, but to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. So that's one way to go forward. And again, wonderful resources online, sample scripts. It's something for some authors to consider.
Yeah, okay. Slightly off topic as I'm listening to you and all this, and I know a few miles from my house, Netflix is in the middle of building a $1 billion studio at
Yeah.
the former Fort Monmouth. Somebody else is plucking down $1 billion in South Jersey. So New Jersey is going to become a real hub maybe to Hollywood at East, likely because they're getting all the tax. So my question, there's and with streaming exploding by the day, there's going to be so many more opportunities for screenplays, correct?
Yes, there, yes, there will be. It's just mathematically speaking, it's proliferating. Absolutely.
Which
Yeah.
is good. It's good for you.
Yes, it is
Yeah,
good.
it's good.
It is good. Um, it is uh, it has been that way now for some time. And I think it will just, continue. I mean, there are other challenges to be sure, no question, but there is a greater
Yeah,
demand.
which is great.
Yeah.
I think
And
it's
and
great.
for yeah, and for quality writing too, which is it's not always the case. I think when an industry expands and there are more providers that are needed, sometimes the quality starts to flatten out, but that's not the case here. Audiences are more sophisticated. Stories or the stories that they are willing to look at, especially in certain limited TV series, are more layered, nuanced, and complicated. So there's more of a demand and a demand for quality writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Take a little bit of a deep breath, some exhalation. One quick off-topic question that I always like to ask, and there could be one answer, there could be a couple. There's no rules here. I borrowed this from one of my favorite journalists, and I like it. Alan, excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with.
What a great
Yeah, it
question.
is.
It
It is.
is.
It is.
Yeah. Well, um, it really it really would be William Shakespeare because don't I don't quite understand how a writer uh, of his genius could have uh, could have written uh, the plays that have come down to us at a time where there weren't many writers who came before that he was able uh, to draw upon. And you and I have had a previous conversation. It's almost as if he his work came to him out of the ether. There was there were very few models for it. He invented language, um, and he spoke to a part of the human condition that no other writer really had before. Um, and he did all this by the time he was 52. He died when he was 52, and the research they've done tell us he didn't really write anything after the time he was 50 years old, and yet he was this great fountain of wisdom and the what changed literary history, and some would argue other parts of the human experience as well. It would be William Shakespeare.
Okay, great answer.
Yeah.
Great answer. Growing up, we had to read Shakespeare in high school. I wasn't a big fan.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because I didn't understand. I didn't understand. And it's funny when I was researching my novel and writing it and talking about my issues with the Vietnam War and stuff. And out of the random blue universe, one day I stumbled upon, I don't know how, I stumbled upon, I forgot. He wrote something akin to Band of Brothers, and he talked about I forgot which play it came from. It wasn't Hamlet. But
Hmm.
anyway, I read that and talked about the camaraderie of soldiers living and dying together. And the way he expressed it, it actually made me feel so different in real life
Ah,
about my interpretation of that war, et cetera, in my place in the aftermath,
mm,
and so it was a wow moment for me having discovered that. And
yeah,
actually, in my novel, I actually take that exact quote, the exact quote that the passage from Shakespeare, and I put it right smack in my.
yeah. Maybe once more unto the breach. Maybe, but it was relatable to you at that point. And in high school, we wasn't Shakespeare. What was Shakespeare? It wasn't relatable to us. The,
Correct.
the human condition and
Nothing.
yeah.
Shakespeare had nothing to do with the Brooklyn Dodgers, so
Well, yeah,
I
right,
wasn't interested.
right, right, right.
In way later life, I discovered the power of his words and how it affected me.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you pinch yourself that I like Shakespeare now after 5 decades have gone by.
it's relatable. We
Yeah,
live a life and we love and we suffer and we win and we lose, and that suddenly his work speaks to all that.
okay. All right, kind of winding down with just a few
Sure.
topical things. Um, with Jersey City Story, which was your winning script with Nicholl Fellowship, what was the spark, the emotional ignition behind Jersey City Story? You alluded to some of that before we went on air.
Yeah. Right. So, uh, my best friend, or I should say a very close friend of mine, who had two very young children, um, passed away at a very young age. Um, and one of his two children was my godson. And my godson was uh, just a little boy at the time, very, very, very young. And I was, and so it was very clear that I was going to be part of helping to raise the two children. And my godson was back then, the Brooklyn Nets were the New Jersey Nets,
Yeah,
right? So uh, he loved basketball and he had a favorite player. And in the weeks following my friend's um, death, I took my godson to a New Jersey Nets basketball game where at the end of the game, if you bought a T-shirt, his favorite player was signing T-shirts or jerseys. So I thought that this would be um, a nice thing to do and take his mind off of things. So we went to the game, we buy the jersey, we get on a very, very long line at the end of the game, and we wait online to get the player's signature. And finally, it's our turn online. Um, and there were PR people all around, and the player, the big 6'10" basketball player, was barely looking up, just signing jersey after jersey after jersey. And now we approach the table, we put the jersey on the table, and the player signs the jersey. And this was my godson, little boy now, his favorite player. And I said to the public relations person standing near the player, because I knew I only had a few seconds, and I'm normally not like this. And I said, referencing the little boy, I said, his father just passed away. Would it be possible just to say a quick, we were like 10 feet away from the player. Would it be possible for him just to say a quick, for the player, just say a quick hello? And the PR person said, I'm terribly sorry. We have to keep the line moving. And I said, that's okay. And the shirt got signed, but the player heard the exchange.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And as we turned around and started to walk away, and the we hear the words, "Come here, boy." And we turned around, and the player motioned for my godson to walk over to the table.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And they spent a couple of minutes, 2 minutes probably together. And at the end of that moment, I looked, we walked away. He actually whispered into my godson's ears. They were having this conversation. And as we were walking away, my godson was clutching the shirt with a look on his face that I will never forget. And it really, I mean, he slept with the shirt on his pillow for like a month. So I was so moved by that. And I was walking out to the parking lot and I thought, oh my, what? That's like a moment from a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the movie I wrote
Oh, wow.
I built it from that scene.
Wow.
And that became Jersey City's story. And now, so that was the spark for me. That's the
Wow.
origin story for the script.
What a great spark.
Thank you for allowing me to share that.
Yeah, what a great, great
Yeah,
spark. Um,
yeah, yeah.
um, let's see. I like this question too as we
Sure.
wind down. Is there a myth about screenwriting you now know is completely untrue? Uh,
Yes. Yes. And I think that this is a myth that many other writers, authors, other content creators here, there's this old saw of write what you know. But I don't think I think that, I don't think that's the case. And I think that's a myth that should be put to rest. We live in our imagination. We ought to be able to bring ourselves and our own personal experiences to situations that maybe we have not gone through before. As long as we're putting some part of ourselves. And so we don't have to have lived through that situation. Um, um, if we if we know heartache, then we can write about a situation where somebody is experiencing terrible loss. We might not have had that particular loss, but we have lost before. And I think I could apply that across the board. Any subject matter we can bring ourselves to. So again, the myth of write what you know, I don't agree with. I think write and be able to access personal feelings and, experience and bring that to it.
okay. Very incisive for me because I've done three projects, and each one is basically me. And why? Because I know me better than anybody else,
Sure.
and it's just easier. I have thought about listening to you before I listen to you, and there's a romance novel in me, and of course I told that to my wife. She got hysterical laughing. Hysterical. You're going to write a romance novel? I said, well, there's something, and but I'm tempted to listen to your words to break my mold.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Well, I think I would, yeah, I mean, I would encourage it.
yeah,
Um, I mean, we've heard it so often, write what you know, that we take it for granted, but I don't think that's the case. I mean, Shakespeare didn't write what he knew.
correct,
He was a commoner and he wrote about royalty and kings and
yeah,
queens and war, and he was not a soldier,
correct.
but he had an insight into the human condition. He didn't write what he knew. He wrote what he was able to feel inside.
Brilliant, brilliant. Like I have a whole new thing with Shakespeare now.
Mm.
A couple of weeks ago, we I got a chance to talk about Casablanca with you. uh, and you love it. I love it. It changed my life around the movie. Um, Casablanca is remembered for its dialogue. Um, uh, Two prongs, two prongs. Modern films are not necessarily manufacturers of this kind of dialogue.
Yeah.
That's A. And if you could speak with Julius and Philip Epstein, the screenwriters from Casablanca, what would you ask them? Uh, so,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you made a very good point about the dialogue in Casablanca, and it might be something along these lines, which is that, uh, and I think you pointed this out to me, that the source material was there was a play. Am I right? I
no,
think there was not. Okay.
no, no. They just banged it out in three
I just
days.
banked it out. So, but the question that I would ask is that it's such a visual medium, films and TV, and where we don't tell, but we show. And although it's brilliant visually, Casablanca, that story is told through its dialogue. They had the boldness to let the story get told through dialogue. It's in many cases a very insular film, and it's. Do you know? Of course, it's a period, of course, but if that movie had never been made and you showed that script to a producer today, I just know that you know the notes that the producer would give, and there would be pages and pages of note and don't say it, show it, too few locations. They broke some rules, um, and I think what it goes to show is that good writing will find its audience always.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Good
uh,
writing. Good
oh,
writing is everything.
it's everything.
Everything. It's just everything. What they were able to do in a couple of days, just beyond, and how it's such a part, of our lives, of all the gin joints and all the bars and all the cities in the world, she comes into mind. I mean, I say that all the time.
It-
He's
yeah,
looking at, I mean, it's just,
yeah. Do you know it is many screenwriters consider it the perfect screenplay,
yeah,
the greatest screenplay. It's at the top of almost every list.
yeah,
Greatest
yeah,
screenplays ever written.
right.
It's
No,
really magnificent.
it's just, it's not, it's a basic little story. There's nothing, supernatural. It's just a story, that people caught up. Uh, um, uh, I mean, everything, and I marvel. I marvel at the scene where Victor Laszlo gets the band to play La Marseillaise and they're singing the French national anthem to overpower the Germans. And then there's a picture of I forgot her name, the actress singing it, and the story behind it, and the tears you see flowing down her cheek is because those are real tears. She had to leave France when the Germans invaded, and she came here, so those were real tears. I mean, powerful stuff.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
powerful, and it has stood the test of time. Casablanca.
yeah.
I mean, it's one of the greatest films
Oh,
ever made, and I think it can be said of any great film that the writing is moving and it's effective. The character arcs are built correctly. Um, yeah, Casablanca. Other writers will also place some other films very high, but Casablanca is always at the top.
that's the top. My
Yeah,
favorite line. Here's my favorite line. It's early in the movie, and Bogart is sitting with Claude Rains, Louis, and he kind of asks him, why'd you come to Casablanca? And so Humphrey Bogart says, I came here for the waters. And Claude Rains said, what waters? We're in the desert. And then Bogart says, I was misinformed.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's great.
oh,
I was misinformed.
yep. I was misinformed. Oh, that just
That's
cinched me.
great writing.
Yeah.
Great. It's tight.
Tight,
Who
tight.
knows what the line was originally? It might have been 3 sentences long,
Yeah.
right? But they got it
Oh,
right. Yeah.
just,
Great screenwriting, less is more. Every word needs to count.
yeah.
And I think too that in a screenplay, the chain is as strong as its weakest link. And if any part of the screenplay it goes on a little too long or the dialogue is uneven, it has ripple effects throughout. Yeah. Casablanca is strong from beginning to end.
Yeah, yeah. We could talk about this and we
Oh
will
yeah.
again and again. Last question. What's the advice you wish someone had told you at your very beginning?
Um, I think it would be uh, to believe in yourself and have the courage of your convictions. I suspected from a very early age that I had the sensibility to be a writer. I had that artistic sensibility, and I should try to develop that talent. And I didn't go with it, and I applied it in other ways. Um, but then discovered, I won't say late in life, but later in life than many screenwriters do, that there was a screenwriter in me ready to get out. And so if I had had the courage of my convictions when I was very young, then I would have gotten a much earlier start, would have
Yeah,
made all the mistakes that I made at a younger age rather than, when I did break in. Um, I think that would be the advice. That's my lesson learned. I'll apply it in my next life.
perfect. 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 Um, that was from a movie. I'll see you in the next life.
Hmm.
It was with De Niro.
Hmm.
I'll see you in the next life. I gotta. It was De Niro and Charles Grodin in
Right.
Midnight Express or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
De Niro's a cop. He's a bounty hunter, and he brings Charles Grodin
Mhm.
back. And they're always talking about see you in the next life.
Yeah.
Great movie. Oh, I watched that.
Charles Grodin's terrific, isn't he?
Terrific, terrific,
What an unusual actor.
terrific. He did a movie, and it's funny. It's never on TV. And I don't know why. The Heartbreak Kid. It was a remake.
Neil Simon.
Yeah, did he write that, Neil Simon?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's the Heartbreak Kid and Charles Grodin and Elaine May's daughter
Yeah.
are in that early on, and then they get married in the city, and they go down. Charles Grodin goes down to Florida, and there on the beach he sees Sybil Shepherd, uh,
Yeah.
whose name I
Right.
think was Kelly Corcoran in the movie,
Hmm.
and one of the most improbable. She's from the Midwest, and the father's Eddie
Eddie
Albert.
Albert played the father, I
Yep,
think.
yep, and so like so conservative, and so he was New York typical, and how they ever wound up together is one of the most improbable, and he was so perfect in that, Charles Grodin.
He was perfect. He was perfect for that. Um, he- there were moments of that movie that were actually uneasy just to look at. So
Yeah,
awkward as he
correct.
and as Eddie Albert is trying to make some sense of the Charles Grodin character and Grodin trying to make his own case for why he's suitable. I, it's an interesting movie. Hard
Very
to get.
interesting. It is just so improbable. Uh, uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
you couldn't write a better script for improbability than that, how they could wind up
Yeah.
together.
And yet it was grounded in its own way. So it was an improbable, almost unbelievable circumstance, but you believed it in
Yeah, you did,
context
by
of
the
the
way.
story.
I had no
Right.
problem with that. You just did. Um, Lenny Cantrell, that was his name in the movie. Uh,
Ah, okay. Lenny Cantrell. Right.
and it's never on. I'm forever watching. I forever watch TMC.
Hmm.
Forever. Uh,
Yeah.
and 113 is another old movie channel. I forever watch that. When I'm not watching CNN, I watch that. And I just never see it on. And I don't even and I don't have it. I should have it to, in my little collection. It's funny we talked about that. Anyway, this I'm going to quote the line, another movie quote from almost the last line from Norma Ray, when Ruben Wachowski is telling Norma Ray that the time, and that was a great, they loved each other, but it could never come out. 'Cause
Right.
there were just too many, there were just too many boundaries and walls. But their journey putting together that union in that southern plant, textile plant, and their journey together, and they're loving each other, but they know they can't even. It's so remote,
Hmm.
and so Ruben says to Norma Ray, "Knowing you has been sumptuous."
Ah,
So this interview has
oh,
been sumptuous.
well, you're very
It was
kind.
it was a
Thank you
great.
for that.
This was great.
Well,
To
thank
be
you, Cal.
continued, to come back,
Yes,
maybe
absolutely.
do more things and stuff. Yes, do come back, and because there's a lot of stuff we haven't. There's so much stuff. There's so much depth to you, and you're so gracious, for
Oh,
your time.
well,
Um,
thank you. It would be my pleasure. Your questions and the conversation is just very
good stuff.
it's provocative and it's very stimulating. And I thank you
Yeah.
for letting me participate in your world. I really
Oh,
do.
thank you. And ditto, ditto, ditto. Ditto's a great word too. Another movie word, ditto.
Ditto.
Ghost,
I
ditto.
remember ditto sheets.
Yeah, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure. I remember
Ditto.
it all.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Alan. I'm just going
My
to stop
pleasure.
recording. Don't leave. We'll do a 2-minute wrap.
Okay.
This was great. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Calvin.